The next iPhone is getting a downgrade. Apple has a big problem. The iPhone 14 is not selling well. But the iPhone 14 Pro is too popular. They just can't make them fast enough. And even if you walked into an Apple store and tried to throw money at Apple, they probably wouldn't sell you a 14 Pro or 14 Pro Max because they don't have any to sell. All of this means some real bad news for the iPhone 15. Apple is set to make some sweeping changes that may be the biggest we've seen in the iPhone's 15-year history. So let me tell you the good news and the bad news about Apple's big iPhone problem. The iPhone might actually become cheaper, the Pro iPhone might get even more Pro, everyone might win with this all-new iPhone generation, but only if Apple can pull this off. Can they do it? Let's find out.
This is the bezel for the iMac. When we remove the aluminium for the display in the center here, we actually take that material and then we can make two keyboard frames from it.
When Johnny Ive was leading design at Apple, the company rarely took price into consideration when designing the all-new iPhone, or really any Apple product for that matter. When a debate came up about cost or form over function, form always won. And while some of Johnny Ive's creations still continue to be living nightmares today, you can't deny that in its heyday, Apple's designs were nothing short of spectacular. Cost was not a major consideration, but then this happened, and the rest is unfortunately sort of a checkered history. And with Apple's current CEO sort of being a logistics and numbers wizard, it really came as no surprise that costs started to play a way bigger role in every single major product's development. Before, when design always won, that's no longer the case at Apple these days. Which may or may not be a big reason that 15 members of Apple's ultra-secretive design team have left over the last 7-ish years. And that might be a video for another day. Let me know down below if you want to see a video on that topic, but suffice it to say, things have definitely taken a turn, not necessarily for the better. And making things even more complicated is this year's iPhone 14 lineup. It includes things like the new dynamic island, a 48 megapixel main camera, an always-on display. All of that is great, but only on the Pro models. The iPhone 14 and 14 Plus have basically nothing. Well, not nothing, but very minimal new features. And according to multiple reports, Apple's in sort of a tricky situation. On one hand, the 14 and 14 Plus have not been strong sales leads for Apple. Apple is struggling to sell these phones in their current form, and more importantly, at their current price. While the 14 Pro and Pro Max are so popular, Apple's just struggling to make enough and keep them in stock. Which leads us to sort of a very pivotal moment of where we are right now in Apple's current history as the iPhone 15 line begins to take shape. And everybody's asking, what's Apple going to do? Well, if we connect the dots on certain rumors and try to map this out, Apple's got a really interesting strategy they could adopt moving forward into 2023, one that could be really good for pros, really good for consumers, and sort of clean up this really messy situation, but they've got to do things in the right order in order to make this a big win and actually doable. For example, right now, rumors indicate that Apple is planning to make a lot of big moves at the higher end of the iPhone 15 lineup next year, making a bigger difference between the Pro phones and the non-Pro phones in the 2023 iPhone lineup. According to the rumors floating around right now, Apple is set to make their Pro iPhones even more Pro in 2023 and maybe introduce an all-new top-tier Ultra Pro iPhone. That's right, we might be getting an iPhone 15 Ultra. This may actually replace the 15 Pro Max as the new top-tier, top-end device that's the most expensive iPhone you can buy with the best screen, the best camera, the biggest battery. This might be the best Pro iPhone you can get and might introduce a couple of new features that you can't get on any other iPhone model, including features you can only get on the Ultra that you can't get on the 15 Pro. Pro. For example, there are rumors that Apple could introduce a 10x optical zoom system with the iPhone 15. Maybe that's just with the 15 Ultra. Maybe the 15 Ultra also gets an action button. It's gonna have obviously the biggest display, it's gonna have the best battery life, and maybe it gets some other sort of pro-end features too. Maybe it can do 8K video, or it's got an astrophotography mode, or something else, something exclusive just to that Ultra phone that makes a lot of enthusiasts, myself included, want to spend the extra money to go with that higher end phone, making Apple sort of more money in the process and making their Pro phones better than maybe we've ever seen before. But what's gonna be more controversial and honestly way more interesting to see is the changes between the Pro phones and the non-Pro phones, because according to more reports, Apple is gonna do more not just to separate the Pro Max from the Pro or the Ultra from the Pro, but to really make a big difference between the Pro phones and the regular phones. So if you bought an iPhone 15 or an iPhone 15 Plus, you might be losing a lot of really big features, including maybe an all-new design. There are rumors Apple could give us an all-new design, but maybe that is just for the Pro and the Ultra, while the 15 is sort of the same old design we've had for the last couple of years. And as much as I'd love to see a redesign across the board, this does sort of make sense. It would push a lot of people up to those pro-end, more expensive phones. And also we have seen Apple be not afraid multiple times to reuse the same design, almost the exact same design, over and over and over again. Look no further than the 2022 iPad Pro, looking really similar to the iPad Pro introduced back in 2018, and even the iPhone SE version 3 now is basically the exact same design as the iPhone SE 2, which was the design of basically the iPhone 8. This is a great way for Apple to increase margins and to make more money off of these sales, and maybe if they sort of kept this design of the 14 around for another year, that make them even more money on these lower end phones, which aren't huge sellers for them as of right now. The other big question being asked right now in the Apple community is, will there be a second non-Pro iPhone option? And if so, what's that gonna be? Apple tried to make the Mini work with the 12 Mini and the 13 Mini, but they just couldn't make that size option happen. They're trying this here with the 14 Plus, which on paper seems like a device a lot of people would love. Everyone who wants sort of a big screen iPhone experience would gravitate towards this phone. But honestly, right now, I think price is a really big issue, and the question really is, do people really want a bigger screen iPhone, or do they want a cheaper iPhone? And I think a lot of people really take cost way more into consideration than maybe Apple even themselves thought, and maybe this Plus phone doesn't make the cut for the 15, and Apple just sticks with one regular sort of non-Pro iPhone. You'd have the iPhone 15, and then you'd have the iPhone 15 Pro with the same screen size, and then the iPhone 15 Ultra with that massive 6.7-inch OLED display and all the extra goodies reserved just for the highest end, most expensive iPhone. And then there's the other obvious question of, well, maybe they should reduce the price. The base iPhone, I think it's gotten some price adjustments over the years, but it really hasn't moved all that much. And if you're looking at an iPhone 14 now at $799, it's about $200 less than a Pro phone, and like I've mentioned in other videos, that $200 goes a long way. You get stainless steel, you get the other color options, you get more cameras, you get the dynamic island, and some other Pro goodies, 48 megapixel main camera. It's very easy for a lot of people to justify that move for $200. But if Apple was to drop the price down of their non-Pro iPhone, maybe down from $799 to $699, $599, dare I even say $499, that would be a way more compelling option and might move way more iPhone units. And maybe if Apple kept that design the same, they could increase their margins, lower the price, sell more phones, and maybe that's a winning scenario. I don't know how that's gonna play out, but maybe it's an option that Apple should at least, and I'm sure they are, considering. And then of course, there's also the rumor of the iPhone subscription plan. We have heard from Bloomberg that Apple is working on a hardware subscription service that could extend to the iPhone. And instead of having the iPhone upgrade program, you have an iPhone hardware subscription service that would essentially be like one low monthly price that'd get you an iPhone and you could use it for as long as you were paying, no obligation to upgrade possibly, and maybe this would be a great way to sort of get more people iPhones at a much lower price. Details on this are very sparse, no word yet on when this is going to launch, but we have heard that Apple's working on this, and maybe this is sort of a way to get the iPhone into more people's pockets and hands just by lowering the price, but not taking a price cut maybe off the top. What are your thoughts on the iPhone pricing problems right now? Is the iPhone just too expensive? Do you think it doesn't have enough exclusive features to make it worth it? And do you think that if Apple went this crazy route next year and had the iPhone 15 Ultra with all the features and they increased the price, but offered some other options at the lower end, is that a way to go? How do you think this works for Apple? What do you think they should do? Is it a feature problem? Is it a price problem? Let me know your thoughts to the messy Apple problem down below. Also, how many times have I said problem in this video? Someone should count it out and let me know down below in the comments how many times I've said problem. There's another one, and I'm sure there's gonna be one more in here before I wrap things up. But as always, I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you so much. I appreciate your support. I'm Robert Rosenfeld from the Apple Circle, and I'll see you all in the next one.